this webinar tonight, just in case anyone who wasn't able to be with us will still be able to join. So we're hoping that we'll put this link up on our website somewhere. And once that happens, I'll make sure that we get that out to all of you. So if you'd like to pass it along to some others, that would be greatly appreciated. All right. So we are here tonight to really focus on Unified 77 Soccer. As you all know, we have an allocation to send a Unified 77 team to USA Games in Seattle next year. And we'll get into a little bit more about all the details of that as we get into the webinar. So I hope that some of you have either started or are looking to start putting together these teams. So we hope that we can kind of help you as you work through whether it's recruitment or team composition, or some coaching strategies. All of those things is what we're looking to really cover tonight. Oh, next thing here. So this is just a little bit of the agenda. We'll talk a little bit about just, why unified sports, what's the real importance of unified sports. We'll go into the 3 different models. For the purpose of the call today, we'll focus on competitive because that is the goal of all the teams that you would put together at this point, at least the ones that will be qualifying for USA Games. Talk a little bit about recruitment and retention of both athletes and partners. Get into meaningful involvement, which is really kind of the core of what unified sports is all about. Talk about team composition, just kind of the best ways to put together those teams when you're talking about age and ability variances. A quick review of the rules, because with unified, there's not a whole lot to go over. Most of the rules remain the same. And then just the road to USA Games for our teams this year. So real high level, and hoping that a lot of you have heard this and are kind of familiar at least with what unified sports is and what it's all about. But just a quick overview. So it's a fully inclusive sports program. And what that really means is that you have a proportional number of Special Olympics athletes and unified partners. And a unified partner is defined as an individual without an intellectual disability. So when we talk about unified partners, they can be individuals with other types of disabilities. When we do our IUS, a lot of times, it's a truly fully inclusive program in that we're able to include all the individuals in a life skills class, for instance, to kind of participate on that team as unified partners. So something to keep in mind as well when you are working on your unified partner recruitment. Teammates are age and ability matched. So this is one of the things that we'll focus on a little bit throughout this. But something that I also just want to highlight is really important across the SO spectrum. So when we talk about traditional teams as well, keeping our teams as age and ability matched as possible provides the best experience for everyone and ensures safety of all members on that team. And training and competing together in an environment where everyone is meaningfully involved. So as I said, meaningful involvement is really one of the kind of key components of what unified sports is all about, and we'll get into that here a little bit later. So what does it help us achieve? So unified sports kind of at its core is really what Special Olympics is all about. One of the main missions of Special Olympics is to help individuals with intellectual disabilities become a productive member of society and their community at large. And unified sports really helps to do all of those things. Through social inclusion, it helps them just build more meaningful relationships with other individuals that are part of their community. And it helps, when we talk about changing attitudes, it really helps others within the general public learn more about our athletes and kind of what they're all about, what they have to offer. Unfortunately, a lot of times our athletes are just viewed as being different, and it's just because people don't know. They're not aware of the abilities that they do have. And when you can partner them up to play sports on a team together as teammates, it completely changes things. And then community inclusion is kind of the third prong of that. And that just, again, is reinforcing the promotion of acceptance and respect. And you do that by, once again, just getting to know each other and learn each other on a completely different level. So we'll dive into the models of unified sports, and Jen is going to handle that for us.
Okay, when we talk about unified sports, there are 3 different models. They are all separate. You do not need to go from one to the other to the other. They can go in any realm. But the first one we'll start with is Unified Sports Recreation, which is on the bottom of your screen. In Unified Sports Recreation, this is kind of like a pickup game where athletes and partners all get together, just have a good time playing sport. No rules are created. They're just playing, kind of like a backyard game of pickup basketball or maybe kickball. The Unified Sports Player Development is where the players or the partners are higher than the athletes, and the partners are now working as coaches to help develop the skills of the athletes. So as you can imagine, there are some modifications to the rules since the partners are working as coaches with the athletes. The other one is Unified Sports Competitive, which is the one we'll be discussing tonight. In Unified Sports Competitive, it combines athletes and partners as teammates for training and competition. So the teams are proportional numbers of athletes and partners. And when we say that if there's 5 on a team, please note that the athletes always have 1 more than the partners on the field. So if there's 5 players, we have 3 athletes and 2 partners on the field. The athletes and partners, as Michelle told you earlier, should be of similar age and ability. Like all of our unified teams and all of our traditional teams, there is a non-playing coach. And also, since we're competitive, we have no rules modification. We're going to play by the same rules as the traditional teams play. Okay? Now, unified sports competitive can be for higher skilled athletes, which many often feel it is, but it actually can be for moderate skilled athletes and partners as well. The key is that the players on all the teams have similar abilities, and they can contribute meaningful to the team and help make a difference. This method, the grid that you're seeing, is the competitive team model. Now, this is what would be preferred for what your team would look like. As you can see, the P1 stands for partner, and then 1 means for their top partner. A1, athlete, the top athlete, all the way down to P5, the lowest partner, and A5, the lowest athlete. Okay? So you can see that the ability levels are very equal amongst those on a team, where the highest athletes, the lowest athletes, the highest partners, and the lowest partners are all able to contribute to the makeup of the team and also to the skill level of the team. Okay, so we need to recruit some athletes. We need to target our athletes. So remember that athletes 25 years and younger have been in part of a traditional Special Olympics program all of their lives. So this might be different for them, okay, and they might enjoy this inclusive sports opportunity. This is for athletes who want to play on a team sport and will benefit with additional support from the field and dedicated unified partners. And by dedicated unified partners, we mean partners who show up for practice and they show up for competition. People with intellectual disabilities not involved with Special Olympics local programs who might be intimidated by playing a team sport. So maybe the athletes have always been part of Special Olympics, but in an individual sport, and they're afraid to play a team sport. So this might draw them in with the unified partners. And for some athletes, it's a desire for a new challenge and an opportunity that they haven't had before. Okay. And it's also for athletes who seek to make new friends with their peers without disabilities by playing on teams together. Now, for partners, we need to recruit those also. Use your athletes. Athletes are the best recruiters. They know siblings, they know friends of their siblings, they know people without disabilities. Let them recruit for your team. For your younger teams, you can try youth groups or community service groups in schools. Check with your high school physical education teacher. They know who really wants to play and is not comfortable playing on a high school team, or they may not make the high school team, so there's only a certain amount of players who can make those teams also. Look at the siblings of athletes and current partners that you have. For older teams, it's the community recreation teams, the YMCA intramural teams. Remember, they don't have to play soccer because you're looking for a soccer team. They might play basketball and might find it refreshing to play a new sport. And if you have current partners in your program, keep those partners. See if they'll be interested and playing on a unified team year-round, okay? And let them help you recruit also. Now, the thing is, you need to be able to retain these athletes and partners, which sometimes can be very difficult, okay? But if you offer a quality program that is coached by a well-trained coach, you will see that the athletes and the partners will stick around longer. When the team members do activities together on and off the field, it helps foster a really strong relationship. And I always tell the story of Center County's teams, the Pots and the Pans, was a softball team. When they played, when they practiced, they were all together. When they played, they were all together. When it was somebody's birthday, everybody was at that birthday, regardless if they were athletes and partners. And when the Special Olympics, when the professional wrestlers came to town, the athletes and the partners were in the bleachers together watching them and cheering them on. Okay? So it was a great example of what a unified team can be and mean to the athletes as well as the partners. And finally, everybody on the team must be able to feel meaningfully involved in the practices as well as the games. Up to you, Michelle.
All right. So what's this meaningful involvement all about? Well, pretty much exactly what it sounds like. So it's just ensuring that every player on the team really has the opportunity to contribute and be successful. And just like the makeup of any team, you have a lot of different personalities, you have a lot of different skill levels. The same kind of comes into place with these unified teams. So it's making sure, number one is really making sure that everyone on that team has the specific skill level to be successful on that team. So all of your athletes, all of your partners, all need to have proficiencies by themselves. So as you're doing those team assessments, which we'll show you in a few minutes here, everyone needs to be able to kind of go through that by themselves in order to ensure that they have a good understanding of what the skills are all about and they can be successful performing those skills. And then finding a valuable role for everyone on the team. So as a coach, this is a really important thing to do. And again, it doesn't matter if we're talking about unified or traditional. Just making sure that everyone has their role and understands that role that they're playing. And, it'll differ throughout for everyone. You'll have some leaders, you'll have some silent leaders, you'll have some followers, just a typical kind of composition of a team. And just ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to play without risk of injury. So again, one of the really important things too, as we talk about unified and traditional, but something that we really need to make sure that we focus on in unified sports as we bring partners into play, making sure that everyone kind of knows their role and understands what that is out on the field. So some of the indicators of meaningful involvement, and then our next slide is some of the ways to know that individuals aren't being meaningfully involved. So again, just making sure that everyone is given the ability to be successful and bringing out their unique talents, like we talked a little bit about, during training and competition. Making sure that they're able to play without risk of injury to themselves or other individuals, and ensuring that they're participating to the rules of competition. One of the really important things about unified sports is that you're coaching everyone. And so, you should equally be coaching the players on that team as well as all the players on the team, so the partners as well as the athletes. And one of the things that is really great about unified sports is, when we'll go watch an event and you can't tell who the athletes or the partners are. That is a very well put together and coached team. Everyone is contributing. Everyone is, if we talk about soccer specifically, everyone is running up and down the field. You don't have either athletes or partners kind of just sitting at the goal cherry picking. There's a lot of communication going on out on the field. That's what it's all about. And as a coach, it's kind of your job to be able to get them there. So again, just really trying to identify who those leaders on your team are, making them kind of leaders and coaches out on the field to be actively communicating and making sure that everyone is kind of in the positions that they need to be in. So when do we not have meaningful involvement? This really happens when you have an individual or multiple individuals who just are much more highly skilled than their other teammates. And one of the places where you can kind of see this become most apparent is in tight games. You know, when a game is on the line, if you have a partner that, or an athlete that is much more skilled than the rest of their teammates, that they start to quickly dominate the game to ensure a win for that team. So that is absolutely not something that we want to see happen. If you do have some either athletes or partners that come out and really want to be a part of this team, some of the things that we suggest that you do is potentially make that person, ask them to come on board as an assistant coach or kind of a team manager. They can still be involved in the team, but they're just not appropriate. And you just need to have that understanding that everyone who comes out for the team, so if you hold an open trial or if you go and do some, you know, targeted recruitment, just because you're pulling these individuals together, once you get them out there and you actually see the skills that they have on the field, everyone may not be appropriate. And again, it's something that a coach needs to know and understand going into this and be able to monitor and control. Putting the team together is the #1 kind of success or failure for unified sports. So again, I want to make sure that you know that Jen and I are here as a resource. If you have any questions as you're going through this, as you're putting the team together, please don't hesitate to ask. We're here to help. And like I say, that is really the #1 most important factor when we're talking about unified sports. And just making sure that you have committed team members. So again, athletes and partners, but that they are committed to showing up for training, for showing up for competition. As you know, similar to any other sports season, there are a lot of requirements. There are a lot of weekend competitions. So again, up front, just making sure that everyone is understanding of that. All right, back over to you, Jen.
All right, let's talk about this team you're putting together. Roster size. Remember that all unified teams shall be required to have a proportional number of athletes and partners, and substitutes to the number of athletes and partners that are on the playing field. So, for example, you need to have a minimum of 9 players, 5 of which are athletes and 4 are partners. Then you have a maximum of 12 members on your team. We're looking at 6 athletes, 6 partners, 7 athletes, 5 partners, or 5 athletes and 7 partners. Okay? But once you're on the field, you always have your 5 and 4. Remember, your team roster can never have more than 2. This line always messes me up. Sorry, everyone. On the roster, there can never be a difference greater than 2, whether it's athletes or partners. So that's why you'll see the 7 and 5 and the 5 and 7 in the maximum numbers of players on the team. Okay? Let's talk about those similar ability and age requirements. Okay? Athletes and partners should be of the similar abilities. This is measured through the soccer skills assessment for individuals. Okay? Michelle's going to flip through and we're going to show you that. This is the rating that you should be using for your team. And you'll see that there are multiple areas. The first one happens to be ball skills. You'll see a listing of items, and your coach who's rating this athlete needs to choose one of those items. They range from 2 points all the way up to 8 points, and you place the score in the box on the side. So which one best describes the athlete's ability when playing in a game? So this cannot be done during practice. You need to be having a scrimmage or some type of game to able to do this for the athletes, to see what their real ability is when they're playing on the field. We talk about their passing. We talk about their movement on the field. Michelle, do you want to scoot down a little bit for me? Thank you. Game awareness, shooting the ball, defense, goalkeeping. Those are the skills that you're looking at. So maybe this athlete never plays in the goal, so there's no points for goalkeeping for them. Okay? But remember, all athletes should learn to play every portion on the team. About this rankings, these ratings, always have the same person rate all the athletes. The reason for that is they'll use the same reasoning behind each score that they give. If you have multiple people rating the athletes, you're going to have multiple feelings on the different athletes. So we always recommend that you use one person to get that team score. okay, to fill out those ratings for those athletes. Now, while the Unified Sports Competitive Model emphasizes the importance of having teams of similar ability, it does not describe, again, that they must be high ability only. Okay? We have a floor hockey team who is unified, and when they started with us, they were down in Division 3 and 4. Now, gradually, they're working their way up, and they're in 2 right now. But when the team started, when they were working together, they were a Division 4 team, and now they're working up. And it's okay to be a Division 4 team, as long as the athletes' ability, of all the athletes and the partners, if their ability is similar.
And I think one of the questions we get most often, especially in a sport like soccer, is how do I find partners that are going to be of a similar ability as my athletes? And really, kind of the best answer to that is recruit partners that are not soccer players. Like Jen had mentioned earlier, maybe they play basketball, maybe they're great softball or baseball players. But it's sometimes best to get individuals involved that may be athletes but don't have a whole lot of experience playing soccer, because that's probably the situation where we can get best ability matched with our athletes. I'll tell you what, I would make the best unified basketball partner, and maybe I'll do that if we get unified basketball up and running here, because I grew up as an athlete, but basketball was never one of the sports I was very good at. I play, I have an understanding of the game, but a lot of our athletes could whip my butt. Like, I have no doubt in my mind that that's true. So, again, it's just kind of really strategic targeting of where we're picking those partners from.
All right. So, how do you determine your team's how to determine your team's similar ability? You know, the first time I had ever heard this statement made, I thought it was, I guess I didn't know what to think about it. They said, it's okay to hold team tryouts. And then I thought, oh my gosh, having to hold tryouts, that's, you know, having to say, I'm sorry, you can't play on the team to somebody. And then I realized there are those times when you do have to say no to someone because their ability is way too high for your team. And like Michelle had talked about earlier, go ahead, do your tryouts, and maybe there you're not going to have everybody play. You might find yourself assistant coaches there. You might find skill coaches there. You might find a team manager there. Okay? But to make sure your athletes' abilities are similar, you might have to say no to someone playing on your team. So what you're going to need to do is to run through those, do your team ratings, and then you're going to plot them on a chart. As you see the chart on the page, we talk about the individual scores. You'll see where the athletes landed and where the partners landed. When you look at your chart, you need to ask yourself, will your lowest athlete or partner be meaningful to the team? Okay? Will they be able to keep up? Will they be able to feel like they contributed to the team's success? If your answer is no, what do you need to do to ensure meaningful participation by all of them? And looking at this chart, it might be taking your A5 athlete and moving them to a different team, taking them back to skills, working with them until they can get their individual rating up high enough that they can participate safely on the team. Remember, safety comes first. Okay? So if that athlete is not going to be safely on the field, please make sure that you move them up. Okay? Determining your team's age grouping, be sure to keep in mind of the appropriate guidelines. Our team should run from 16 to 21 in ages, 21 to 35, 35 to 50, and then 50 plus. If you are looking to have a unified team to be advancing to World Games, we would prefer to keep those teams composed of athletes and partners who are 35 and under. 35 and under. And remember, when you're age grouping your team, your age group is determined by the oldest athlete on the team at the date of competition. Okay, the date of the opening of the competition. So if you have a team that's all athletes 25 to 35, well, one athlete is going to be 36 the day the games start. Your team has now moved up to the 35 to 50 age grouping because of that one athlete. So keep that in mind when you're putting your teams together.
And again, I think with this age grouping, you know, similar to like we talked about with ability, this is something to keep in mind across the board in Special Olympics. So as we put together traditional teams as well, you know, we see a great age variance on a lot of the teams that we have throughout the state. And it's concerning, and it's something that, you know, we've talked a lot about internally, and I think we just need to do a lot better job of educating our individuals. But it's all to ensure that, again, everyone is meaningfully involved and that everyone is in a safe environment. So just, again, a good reminder, and keep these age brackets in mind as you move forward across the board.
And please note, just real quick, that we're talking about 35 and under, strictly for teams to attend the USA Games. Okay, in traditional unified sports, as well as in traditional Special Olympics and unified sports, you can have older teams, but we are looking strictly at Team USA requirements of being teams of athletes 35 years of age and under. You have your teammates requirements. Remember that your athletes must have a fully completed medical. All your partners must have a fully completed medical. If they are 18 years of age and older, they must have a cleared background clearance. If they are 16 and over, they must have protected behaviors and general orientation.
All right, so I touched on this a little bit earlier, but just some coaching strategies for unified sports. Again, so just ensuring that all the players in that team have that basic level of understanding of the sport. Without that, it's going to be very hard for them to have a meaningful role as a part of this team. Be mindful of those outliers. So again, either individuals on top or individuals on bottom. And if it's determined that they're not appropriate, finding a different role that they can play so they can still continue to be part of that overall team atmosphere. Conducting player assessments. So like Jen said, this needs to be done in a competitive type atmosphere. So it can be done at practice if you are teaming up kind of two teams together and having a little scrimmage that happens where the coaches can sit there and complete these ratings. But it does need to be a competitive atmosphere where everyone has an understanding that, you know, this should be a game type of situation. And number one most important thing to do is remember to coach all players and coach them equally. It's how our athletes can get better. We don't want to be kind of coaching down to them almost, you know? You want to make sure that you're coaching everyone on the equal playing field. And just like with our traditional Special Olympics, you're always going to have those individuals that may need some adaptive coaching and things like that. So that's fine. But just remembering that the message, the overall messaging of coaching or setting up plays or, you know, the philosophy of what this team's going to be all about, that is being shared with all participants on the equal playing field. So playing by the rules, as we've noted, when you are playing unified competitive, there are not rule variations except for the lineup. So that is the only place where there is a unified rule variation that needs to be followed. So on a 77 team, your lineup would be 4 athletes and 3 partners. So that is a normal 77 team. If you end up having to play down for whatever reason, red cards or an injury, and you don't have other backups, that must then be 3 athletes and 3 partners. And again, we can never have more partners on the field than athletes. So if you're going to play with a minimum of 5, that must be 3 athletes and 2 partners. So you can see a kind of outline there. And again, failure to adhere to those ratios would result in a forfeit of that game. And just also ensuring that each team has a non-playing coach. All the other rules are the same as we would see in traditional. So you can have either an athlete or partner in goal. Both athletes and partners can score. And as I talked about a little bit earlier, one of the things you really need to ensure and work on with your team is that there's not player dominance, especially, you know, within the last 30 seconds when your team may be down or the score is tied, that there's never player dominance that takes over, either from a partner or athlete perspective. they need to continue to play the game together as you would have coached them to do. All right, so just a little bit about the Road to USA game. So you all know we've received an allocation for a unified team to be there. So what will be happening this fall is our fall sectional, so all of them, East, West, and Central, will serve as kind of the first qualifier for that game. So if you are interested in entering a unified 77 team, they must be entered into your respective fall sectional. What we'll try to do if there is not enough teams for a competitive atmosphere at any of the sectionals, so typically we have not hosted soccer in the Central region for quite some time at their sectional. So if there are teams from the central part of the region that are interested, and we get one or maybe two, and we just can't provide them with a competitive enough environment at that sectional, we will invite them to come and attend a different sectional. Again, we want there to be a real competitive environment for these teams. And then that will be an advancement to Fall Fest. So the number of teams that will advance, it'll really just depend on the interest. So we have a number in mind of what we can take to Fall Fest this year. Once we receive entries for all of the sectionals, we will let you know if the sectionals will be qualifiers or not. So again, you will still be required to come and play at a sectional event, but depending on the number of teams that we get that are interested, they may not need to act as a qualifier. Fall Fest will be the qualifier for the 2018 USA game. So clearly all teams that are interested must attend Fall Fest in order to move on. So just some qualifiers for that. So everything we talked about today. So your team must meet the definition of a competitive unified team, where all of your players are similar age and ability. And as Jen talked about, we're trying to keep it at that 35 and under age range, just so again we can set up competitive play. You know, if we had a handful of teams that were 16 to 21 and a handful of teams that were 50 and over, that doesn't allow us the opportunity to ensure competitive play against one another. So our targeted age group is that under 35 age range. Your rosters must have a minimum of 9 players and a maximum of 12 players. And again, that can just be no different than a 2 individual variance on either side as you put together that full roster. Must have coaches. So each team must have 3 coaches. 1 certified head coach. If you don't have coaches who are certified in soccer, there will be plenty of trainings that Jen is working to set up throughout the state over the next few months here. So please ensure that they attend one of those trainings. And 2 assistant coaches. And again, whereas the assistant coaches are not required to be certified, we would always encourage everyone to attend a soccer certification. Commitment. So participation in the 2017 season, obviously, would be a commitment. That's a minimum of 8 weeks of training, as you all know, and then attendance at competitions. But for these individuals, they also need to be making the commitment through 2018. So that would include participating in Team PA training camp. The tentative dates for that are April 7th and 8th. And we're doing a lot of kind of site visits over the next few weeks here to determine where that location will be. Once those dates and location are final, we'll ensure that we share that with everyone. Attendance as a team at the 2018 summer games. So all of our 2018 athletes will attend summer games. Everyone participating in a fall sport will kind of just attend with that team. Those participating in summer sports will attend and compete as part of summer games. So for our fall sports, so soccer, powerlifting, and bocce, it'll act as kind of a mini training camp, and we'll make sure that there's some competitive opportunities as well as just kind of team bonding and team training that happens throughout that summer games weekend. And then, of course, last but not least, attendance at the games themselves. So the games run from July 1st to July 6th. Depending on when we get our flights out, the dates could be either June 29th, June 30th to fly, and then we will be flying back, the delegation will be flying back on July 7th. So it's important to just to know that everyone on the team is knowingly making that commitment. All right, so that's all we have for kind of our educational part of the webinar here today. So if there are any questions, please go ahead and type them into either that question box or the chat box. If you can see, I've never done this before, but if you have a handout box, I've included 4 handouts in here as well. They're just 4 PDFs on unified sports. So the one is assessing players and forming teams. The other is just the overall soccer sport rules. It says football sport rules because, as we know, that's what it's referred to with it as in SOI. Soccer sports coach guidelines, and then the principles of meaningful involvement. So just, again, attachments that I believe you can pull and download off of this webinar itself using that side toolbar.
All right, Michelle, we do have a question. And the question is, so if a team unified sports is selected for national games, it means they cannot participate in basketball for summer games. And the answer to that would be, that is correct. The unified team will be at summer games as the unified soccer team. They will use it as a training camp, so they will not be able to participate in other sports at summer games. Michelle, you have anything to add to that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Just give another minute or two in case anyone has any questions. Again, please just go ahead and type them into that question box. And as we said, I'm sorry I didn't put our contact information up. I think that most of you know how to get a hold of Jen or I, but if not, I mean, my email is just mboone, B-O-N-E, at specialolympicspa.org, and Jen as well, J-Tresk, T-R-E-S-T, at specialolympicspa.org, and you can find all of our information on our website as well.
All right, that was the only question so far and the only thing under chat.
Looks like we have one more that came in. How do we get PDF copies again? And I can send them out as well, but I'm just not sure what exactly you all see on your end. So if you see a drop-down similar to the question toolbar that says handouts, there are 4 handouts in there, which are PDFs, which I believe that you should just be able to pull and download. But I will send them out as a follow-up to everyone who's participated along with the PowerPoint as well. All right, well, Jen and I will hang on for a few minutes in case there's any other questions, but I don't want to hold up anyone who may be looking to get on with their evening. So thanks so much for attending this webinar tonight. And again, if you have any other questions, please feel free to follow up with us. Michelle Cordell, I think you snuck another one in here. Training camp is mandatory. So training camp is mandatory. And that's what we hope, that people are getting it far enough in advance notice. It will be a Saturday, Sunday. So again, the targeted dates right now are April 7th and 8th. If there are exceptions to that, I mean, we would very few, and we would take them on a case-by-case basis.
There's another one here. Is training camp like sports camp in Altoona?
You want to take that, Jen, as you've been a part of training camps in the past, and I have not.
Actually, the training camp could be located, as of right now, it could be anywhere in the state. So in the past, we've had them in Bloomsburg, and we had our send-off in Altoona. So at this time, we don't have a location confirmed for training camp, but hope to very shortly. Does that answer your question, Amelia?
I think she may have been asking what kind of happens at training camp. So one of the main things about training camp is the coaches really getting to know the athletes. So 7v7 is a little bit unique in that that is a team. Those coaches and those players all know each other very well. It's an opportunity for those that will have coaches throughout the state and athletes coming from different counties than their coaches. So it's an opportunity for them to really work and get to know one another. We will run a lot of team building activities at training camp. And again, it'll just kind of be like a mini training session. It'll go, everyone will come in on, I think they may even be aiming for Friday night, not positive. Again, we'll put out all that information once it's confirmed. But they'll train Saturday and then half a day Sunday, and then everyone will head home on Sunday evening.
In the past, it was a really nice time to get to know everybody and get to know the quirks. It was great for the coaches because they got to know the quirks on the athletes, and the athletes really seemed to bond well with their coaches.
We will also do all of the uniforms, the final uniform fittings there. Our vendor will be attending with us at training camp. They'll have sizes for everyone to try on. And from there is where the actual, all the year order will be placed. And then we will bring all of that gear with us to summer games. Distribute it to everyone. Again, make sure it fits. It'll give us a little bit of time if we need to make out some exchanges to do that prior to their leaving for Seattle.
We do have another question. The question is, will the slides be available as a download as well? And yes, these slides will be available in the email that Michelle sends out to everybody who participated on the call. Do you know if 7v7, hold on, there we go. Do you know if 7v7 Unified Soccer will be a qualifier for Fall Festival?
Again, Michelle, right now I have personally received interest from 4 or 5 counties saying that they are really looking to go ahead and start a unified team. If that is the number we land at, if it is indeed only 4 or 5, again, all of those teams will be required to play at a sectional, but they would all advance to Fall Fest. It really depends how much interest we get. So if you are on the call and you are interested in starting a 7v7 team, if you could just reach out and let me know. Again, this helps give us a better idea as we continue planning through the fall.
Okay. I think I got everyone's questions. Let me tell you, this is hard in that little box.
I know. Yeah, the question toolbox on our end is not the friendly.
No, it's not easy. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks once again, everyone. You got another one? Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Let me click on it to see if I can make it bigger. Is it only a unified 7v7 team a qualifier, or is it a regular 7v7 a qualifier also?
Yep. So this year we had sent that information out, I think back in late fall. But 7v7 will be a qualifier across the board this year. So if you have any 7v7 teams interested in going to Fall Fest, they must enter and participate in a sectional event.
So basically all levels of soccer, 5v5, 7v7, and 11, is 11v11 a qualifier?
11v11 has not been a qualifier. So 5v5. So it's very similar to how 5v5 has been treated in the past.
So 5v5 and 7v7 this year are qualifiers.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that at this time is now the end of my questions that I can tell.
And that is correct too, Amelia, that the allocation we have is specific to a unified 7v7 team. So we will be sending a unified 7v7 team to nationals next year.
Does anybody want bonus points and can tell us who Bum Phillips is?
Because I didn't know. I had to ask Jen. And I'm pretty sure she had to Google it.
I looked it up, yes. For those of you who don't know or may want to know, Tom Phillips was at, oh, wait a minute, I do have a comment here. Defensive coordinator for the Eagles. That is actually his son. He was with the Saints and the Oilers. He was with the Saints and the Oilers.
Nice.
Yep,
you got
it in. Yep, his son was with the Eagles. Yep, his son was with the Eagles.
Impressive, though, Eric.
Thanks, Eric, I'll still give you bonus points for that one. Let's see, will the unified team play against, Michelle, the question on this one is, will the unified teams play against regular seven-a-side teams?
So in fall sectionals, we will make all attempts possible to division unified together. There may not be enough unified teams competing in those events. In that case, there will be divisions as appropriately against traditional 77 teams, similar to how we are doing a lot of unified and traditional divisioning at this point in time, since we don't have significant unified numbers throughout the state. But at Fall Fest, it will be a separate unified division. So sectionals, they may compete together depending on the ability of the team, but at Fall Fest, it will be a separate division because, again, we need to advance one qualifier.
Okay. Thanks, Tony. Okay. Last call for questions.
Amelia, I see your comment here. That's great. So Amelia says she doesn't know if anyone else from Lehigh is on, but her son Brandon really wants to play Unified 77. So that's great. I would suggest that you go and you talk to Kevin or some of the members of your local program management team. Yours was one of the counties that had interest in starting a team. So go back and follow up with some of them and get out and start recruiting.
And I think Tony is from your area.
Oh, yeah, Tony is Lehigh as well. I'm sorry.
And Ann. Okay.
And Ann. We got a lot of Lehigh people on. You're right, Jen. Lehigh John. Team sorry on it. We'll go out and recruit that team.
So Amelia, Tony says, yep, tell her that he is on. And so we're looking for that Lehigh 11, that Lehigh 7-a-side team. Lycoming County is trying to put together a 7-a-side team and should know if they have one in the next few weeks. Good job, Lycoming. Thank you. We're looking forward to seeing you have one. So Michelle, add Lycoming and hopefully Lehigh to that team listing.
Yep, that's fantastic. And again, Eric, I think Unified, I'm not sure how much Unified Lycoming currently has. So if you need any assistance, just please don't hesitate to reach out.
And remember, if your coaches have not already, there is an online unified sports course that they should take. If you go on to the training and continuing education page on the SOPA website, scroll down to the bottom and you can find that course. It is a free course and can be used as continuing education also. So encourage all your coaches to take that course, please. Okay.
All right. well, thanks again, everyone. We really appreciate you attending this evening.
Thanks, everyone, for being a participant on our call tonight. We really appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Yep, I am going to